This video is the first video of the video series SQL interview questions. It will cover every single question that you may face in an interview. So let's get started. What is the difference between rank and dense rank? You have 5 students in your class. 3 of them have the same score. If you decided to rank these students on the basis of their score, rank and dense rank will give you different ranks. Rank will give you second rank to all 3 candidates, but the next rank would be 5 because 3 students got the same score. So if one or more students share the same rank, the next rank is skipped, which is not the case with dense rank. Even though the 3 candidates share the same score, the next candidate will still get the rank 3. That's the basic difference between these two. Since the ranks are skipped, rank function is also known as skip rank. What is a self join? Usually a join happens between two tables which are based on certain conditions. When instead of using two different tables, we use the same table for join, that is referred as self join. For example, in this query, we are joining the employee table with itself to identify the employee name along with its manager's name. What is a natural join? When we join two tables, we use using which we will join our tables. There are different ways to write the same thing. We can use any of these mentioned methods to join these two tables. But when we use natural join, we don't have to explicitly specify the column on which the join will take place. Oracle identifies the common column between these tables and uses them for join. So in short, with natural join, you don't have to explicitly specify the join condition. Oracle creates that for you on the basis of common columns from the table. How to remove duplicates in SQL? Every row in Oracle has a unique address which is stored in a pseudo column row ID. This means when you write select star from table name, you do not see that column, but it exists. Now when we say there are duplicates in a table, we essentially mean that the candidate or natural key of the table has duplicate values. For example, this employee table has multiple values for employee ID 1 and 2. In order to remove the duplicates, we need to preserve one row for each employee ID and then we can remove everything else. For that, we can use row ID. All we need to do is group by employee ID and identify the maximum or minimum row ID from the table. This will give one row for each employee ID. Now whatever rows do not fall in these row IDs, we can delete them and that will give us the unique rows. What is the difference between union and union all? Union basically gives the unique output after combining the dataset and removing all duplicates, while union all simply combines the dataset but does not perform any removal. For example, here union test table contains 1, 2, 3 and 1, while union test 1 contains 1, 3 and 4. So as per the definition, union will combine the dataset and will return only unique values, which is 1, 2, 3 and 4, while union all will simply combine the dataset without removing anything, which will result in 7 rows. What is merge statement in Oracle? Merge statements allows to insert and update into a table based on its existence. Its performance is optimal as it can perform both these statements in parallel if required. For example, we have a merge underscore test table that has 3 rows with employee ID 1, 2 and 3, and we need to merge data into it from our new data set which has 2 rows with employee ID 1 and 4. Now employee ID 1 already exists in merge underscore test table, so we should update that row, and employee ID 4 is new, which means it should be inserted. Merge helps us in doing the same, and when I run this query, we see that 2 rows are merged. Employee ID 4 is inserted while employee ID 1 has the updated salary. What is a subquery and what are its types? A query inside a query is called a subquery. There are 2 types of subqueries in Oracle: correlated and non-correlated subquery. In a correlated subquery, the inner query has a reference of the outer query, which is not the case in non-correlated subquery. Here is how a correlated subquery looks like, and this is how a non-correlated subquery looks like for the same problem. I have created a detailed video on this topic. You can find that video link in the description section as well. What is an index and what are its types? An index is a database object that helps in improving the select query performance when used correctly. You can think of an index as a pointer to the data in the table. In simple terms, it is similar to the index that we have in a book, where if we have to search for a particular word or a chapter, then instead of reading the entire book, we look at the index or glossary section to find it quickly. Index in itself is a huge topic. You have B-tree, bitmap, functional. I have created an entire series on indexes starting from the very basics. I will leave a link to that in the description section. What are scalar functions in SQL? Scalar functions take a value as input, does some transformation to it, and returns a single value output. Upper, lower, substring, format, length are all scalar functions. The main thing is that they work on each record of the dataset individually. For example, if I use upper of first name, it will show all the first name values in caps as output. Or if I take length of full name, it will show me the length of full name for each row. What is aggregation and aggregate functions in SQL? Aggregations is used to perform calculations on multiple rows of a single column. It takes multiple values as input and returns a single summary value. Count, sum, average, max, min are the most commonly used aggregate function in SQL. For example, in this query, we are calculating the average salary of each department. Aggregate functions usually reduce the number of rows in output, which is not the case with scalar functions. What is cardinality in a database? The number of unique values in a column defines its cardinality. For example, we have an employee table with 4 columns: employee ID, name, gender, and marital status that has 1 million rows. Gender and marital status will have very limited number of unique values, so we can say they have low cardinality and high number of repetitive values. While employee ID will be unique for every employee, making it a high cardinality column. What is granularity in the database? Granularity is the lowest level of detail that we can fetch from a dataset. For example, in this table, we have three columns: year, product, and sales. Can I tell the amount of sales that happened for the product P1 in January 2020? No, I know the sales for P1 for the year 2020, but there is no month's bifurcation. So the lowest level of detail I can fetch from here is how much the product P1 sold in 2020. From this table, I can tell how much the product P1 was sold in January 2020, but can I tell how much it sold on 26th January 2020? No, I cannot, because though I have the month bifurcation here, there is no date bifurcation, making it impossible to tell the sales for P1 on 26th January. So the lowest level of detail I can fetch from here is how much a product was sold in a particular month, which will be the granularity of this dataset. What are joins in SQL? What are their types? This question is very common in most of the interviews. They give you a scenario and ask you to share the number of output rows based on the dataset. We will see a similar example in this question, but before that, let's understand what are joins. Joins are used to combine rows from two or more tables based on related columns. For example, here we have joined employees and department tables on the basis of department ID. What is inner join? Inner join only return those rows that have matching values in two or more tables. Let's come to our question. We have two tables, table 1 and table 2, each having one column named column 1. Here is the value of table 1. It has 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3 and 4. The table 2 has 1, 2, 2, 4, 4, 5 and 6. What will be the output if I inner join these two tables using column 1? What will be the count? As per the definitions, values that are common on both tables will be shown. 1, 2 and 4 are common to both, so we should see only these three. But how many times would we see them? For that, we can simply multiply the common values. 1 occurs twice in table 1 and once in table 2. So it will have two entries in the output. 2 occurs thrice in table 1 and twice in table 2. So we will have 6 entries in the output for 2. And 4 occurs once in table 1 and twice in table 2. So we will have 2 entries for 4 in the output. And the total count should be 10, which is the case. This scenario is very common in interviews. What is left join? In left join, we display the rows common to both tables, and along with that, we also display the rows from left table which do not have a matching value in right. So left join output is inner join output plus values from left table that are not part of the right table. From the query, we already know we had 10 rows as output and 3 which occurs once in left table, table 1 does not occur in table 2. So left join will have 11 entries in total, 10 common to both the table and 3 which is present in our left table but is not present in the right. What is right join? Right join is very similar to left join. In right join, we displace the rows common to both tables. Along with that, we also display the rows from right table which do not have a matching value in left. So right join output is inner join output plus values from right table that are not part of the left table. From the query, we know for inner join we had 10 rows as output and we have 5 and 6 which occurs once in right table but they do not occur in the left table, table 1. So right join will give 12 entries in total, 10 common to both tables, and along with that we will have 5 and 6 which are present in our right table. What is full outer join? Full outer join includes missing records from both left and right table along with inner join output. So our full join will include all these missing rows and will return 13 rows in total. What is cross join or Cartesian join? This is a join with no where condition. For this, the output records contains the multiplication of records from both tables. Here we have 7 records in each table, so we will have 49 records in total in the output. Every single record from first table will be associated with every single record from the second table, which will lead to these 49 records. Creating copy of a table. You can create a copy of an existing table by using create table and select statement together. The syntax is create table, new table name as select star from table name. Here we are creating a copy of employee table using the same syntax. Create table employee underscore copy as select star from employees. Creating copy of a table with no data. We can create it using the above given syntax after adding a filter condition 1 is equals to 2. It will copy the structure but it will not copy the data. Difference between delete and truncate. Both the statements are used to remove data from the table. Delete is a DML statement while truncate is a DDL statement. There are 3 main differences between them. Truncate is faster than delete. Data once truncated cannot be recovered, while deleted data can be recovered using rollback. Delete can be used to remove partial data from the table, while truncate removes the entire data set. I have created a detailed video on the difference between these two. I will drop a link to it. Difference between truncate and drop. Truncate and drop both are DDL statements. Truncate only removes the data, while drop removes the entire object from the DB itself. Drop should be used very carefully. Any dependent object that is using the dropped object will become invalid and it will have to be revalidated when we create the dropped object again. For example, when we drop this table emp underscore drop, the trigger associated with this table has become invalid. Even after creating this table again, the trigger is still invalid and will have to be redeployed. What is primary key? How is it different from unique key? Primary key helps in identifying all rows of a table uniquely. For example, each employee will have its own ID in an employee table, so employee ID can act as a primary key for the table. A table can have only one primary key, while it can have multiple unique keys. Also, a unique key column can contain null values, which is not the case with primary key. I have created a detailed video explaining the different type of keys. I will drop a link to it in the description. What are constraints and what are its types? Constraints are rules that are implemented on columns to restrict or control the kind of data that can enter in a table. Not null, unique, check, default, primary key, foreign key are the main kind of constraints in SQL. Explain each constraint briefly. Not null constraints ensure that null values cannot be inserted in a column. Unique constraint ensures that a duplicate value is not entered. Check constraint ensures only certain types of values are entered for a particular column. For example, age column can have a constraint to ensure only positive values are entered. Default constraint provides a default value to the column in case if a value is not specified. Primary constraint ensures that there are no nulls and no duplicates. And foreign key constraint ensures that there is a parent-child relationship between tables.